Hey guys, this is the Academic Christian, also known as Chandler King. We're on this channel. We look at things from an academic perspective, a research-based perspective, and a biblical perspective. So I've been doing this little series lately where we've been looking at things about how people who are Christian can do better, how Christian people and atheists can dialogue better is the topic today. But it's basically the past week has been about hey, what if someone has doubts? What is happening with religion and why are less people believing now? So if you're interested in that, I really suggest that you look at those videos. But to go ahead and start out here, I'm going to do how basically we can dialogue better, because it's important for us as people to learn how to love each other and live together. And, there are demographics showing that Christians, they're starting to become a lot less Christians in the world, even though, I'm Christian. Organized religion, even though it's starting to decrease, obviously I don't like it because I am Christian, but it's not going to go away, at least within a generation or so. And, of course, I hope it doesn't, but you get what I mean. People have different viewpoints on it. And so basically, what I mean is, we still got a while, and we all need to learn to live with each other and love each other, regardless of what we think. And so I got this thing, and it's going to be some tips of how to dialogue better, what I think Christians do wrong when they dialogue, and what I think some atheists do wrong when they dialogue. So, common problems I see with Christians, and this isn't all Christians, and just like my example when I go to the atheist slide, it's not going to be people, all atheists, but um, it's things that I see from the most annoying sects of both groups. Um, Problems with Christians is sometimes they can be judgmental when someone starts to doubt their faith. If you read Jude 122, it specifically says that you are to have mercy on those who doubt. So if there's someone who is questioning their faith, you shouldn't get upset with them. And that was one thing. There was a time, and I think everyone's had a time where they may have questioned God. Um, but there was a time where I had a real rough time. And I had fellow Christians who basically were mean about it, because I kind of went off and did my own thing. I just left the church, and they just were like, "You need Jesus." And I'm just like, even though, with me being a Christian, it may have been what would have been true. If someone has taken that path where they're starting to doubt and they're starting to do certain things, you handle things in a certain way, and that's definitely not one of them. Something else I seem to notice too, and this is what I see on Facebook and the internet, and what I've often seen from people who are atheists. They tell me some things that Christians may have said to them. They will talk about what is in Revelations about Judgment Day. And it says, every knee shall bow. And my thing is this, and I guess let me also they also sometimes mention that someone will go to hell out of anger. Now, let me go ahead and tell you, of course, with me being a Christian, I do believe that there is a hell. But at the same time, I believe that love is not forced. I can't sit there and someone who doesn't believe, do you think me talking in a certain manner is going to get them to my side? If I walked up to someone who is an atheist and they're making these points, and I just go, well, one day you're going to find out, every knee shall bow, that's not going to win them to my side. That's not going to do that. You see, Jesus, if you read the New Testament a lot, he sat there and he ate with the sinners, the people who were unsaved. Now, don't get me wrong. he preached messages to them, and again, he said what was right and wrong, and that the only way to heaven is through him. But at the same time, he just didn't flat out go, you're going to hell, or at least from what I've seen. If something, if a Christian wants to, put a scripture in, maybe I'll look at it in the comment section. But just from my perspective, he was always loving and kind. He wouldn't just flat out say that. Now, don't get me wrong, in Revelations, he does say some things. But at the same time, how he treated and how he approached people who didn't believe was vastly different than when he stood up to the religious elite. Something I also try to get Christians to see, and this is something that they a lot of times don't like to hear, is to use sources outside of the Bible to prove your point sometimes. And so whenever there's a dialogue that is going on, and it's with someone who doesn't believe in God, they don't believe in God. And sometimes just sharing the word, the word will be what touches them in the end with scripture, but sometimes showing them things that line up with events in the Bible can help touch them a little bit too. And what I mean by that is things like on this channel, how I put out stuff from research studies that match up in a little bit of favor with Christian faith. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some that match up the other way too, but it kind of helps. It helps them realize, hey, Christians aren't dumb, especially if they're able to pull out research studies and understand what is going on with the research studies. And so that's part of something that's very important, because a lot of atheists are people who are college educated. So because of how they came up, a lot of them are skeptical, and it's understandably so. Now, I'm going to move on to the next slide, and it's going to be atheist. I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about something before I move on to the atheist thing. Now, hey, before I say anything that is on the slideshow, I want to be very important when I say this. This does not qualify for all atheists. I repeat again, this does not qualify for all atheists. I say that because sometimes it's easy for us Christians to put someone in a metaphorical box. There are all different types of atheists. I've known, atheists that are very arrogant and think that religion is dumb. And then I have some that don't believe because they're like, hey, the research doesn't match up this way. Or I have some believe like, hey, I haven't seen anything. And so it's very hard. I'm just listing things that I think are the most annoying things that I might see, and that doesn't necessarily mean that's what all atheists do. And also, if you're an atheist visiting this channel, in the comment section, I want to say this. If you have some outlines that you think that maybe Christians are not doing correctly, or you got an outline that you think your own part can do better, let me know in the comment section, because I think it's important for us to have better dialogue so we can at least get along while we're here, on Earth. So one thing that I think atheists do wrong, and this isn't all atheists, but I do know that there are some really arrogant ones. They call certain points stupid. Now, don't get me wrong. Some Christians, of course, don't go to college, so when they try to show something scientifically, it may not come out right. I've known this with if maybe you are like, hey, the theory of evolution is a thing that debunks Christianity. Well, if you get to a very old school, kind of belief, which is like what the young earth creationists believe, they'll think that the world is really 6,000 years old. And so, I'm just going to put it out there. I'm one of those who believes the earth is older, and I've said that throughout my videos. I haven't stated what I believe on evolution, but I believe 2 Peter 3:8 says that time in God's eyes is different than time in man's. So it shows that the world could be older based on the 6 days. And I think God put that in there because he knew that the science would kind of show up with this. And so my thing is this: if someone believes in a younger Earth, I know that it won't probably match up with peer-reviewed articles and scientific journals. Um, but I wouldn't call them dumb. I would just show them what the research says, and if they're rude, I would not talk to them. I mean, that's just how it is. I'm one of those people who believe that someone could believe in evolution and be Christian, and I get a lot of flack for that. There is a cool book that is written by a scientist called The Genealogical Adam and Eve. And if people want to read that who are atheists, who it may influence what they think, it's written by a well known scientist. So it would be something that I think that people would enjoy that may not believe. Those who know about Francis Collins, he's a big Christian who believes also in um, he also believes, I think, in evolution, and he is a big scientist. I think, was it working on the Genome Project? He has a book too that is not the genealogical Adam and Eve. That's someone else, but he has a book too that is pretty cool that you may want to read if you don't believe. And you're like, hey, evolution is the reason I'm not believing. And so I think it's just kind of cool because they offer a different perspective. They believe in the theory, and then they like that. Um, I'm up to my interpretation being wrong. I think once, of course, I believe in God and I believe in heaven. So I think, when I get up to heaven, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And, it just is what it is. Also, know that a lot of atheists will sit there and make fun of organized religion. And this, again, isn't all atheists. There is a big difference in, I don't know if maybe some atheists follow atheist YouTube, but if you watch, let me give an example of an atheist YouTuber. If you watch Genetically Modified Skeptic, which the guy's name is Drew in real life, he is critical of Christianity, but he doesn't make fun of religion. And then you got someone like Aaron Ra, who he's a very smart guy, but he makes fun of organized religion. And I don't think we get anywhere by doing that. I think we can disagree. We can point out what our sources are, and then at the end of the day, be friends. I think we could really come from that conclusion. Make sure you listen all the way to each point. And, this doesn't just go with atheists, this goes with Christians too, because sometimes, we'll be like, well, this, well, that, and we'll cut into each other. And then that's just how fighting leads, and there's no point in conversation then. So the important thing, I've said this in other videos, in my video, what if I was a Christian that had someone close to me that lost their faith, I said one of the important things to do is tell them that you love them and set boundaries. When you want to dialogue with someone who has an opposing belief to you, let's say I'm Christian, I want to dialogue with an atheist friend, set boundaries. And one of those things I like to do is, if I see that the conversation is getting heated, I'll say, all right, let me back off. I'll even tell them that, look, hey, my friendship is important, and if this is going to get us upset, I'm going to back off for a little while, and we can try this another time. So it's important to listen to the other person. I put other persons. Apparently I can't type. But listen to the other person. So again, listen to the claim that they have. And it's okay if you don't know the answer. And this goes for both sides. If you don't understand something, it also doesn't mean to throw out what you believe right off the bat. So let's say an atheist brings up a point that a Christian can't answer. That doesn't mean throw it out. And the reason I say that is it goes with any well-known theory with science. Let's say you had a hypothesis and it falls through, it doesn't mean that the whole hypothesis was wrong. Maybe you need to re-engineer it. And so my thing is, if an atheist brings up a point that a Christian can't answer, you don't throw your faith out because of that. That's the same thing with the atheist too. If a Christian brings it, and don't get me wrong, of course I want you to be a Christian, but at the same time I want it to be for the right reasons. I want it to be because you know that there is a loving Creator out there. I don't want it to be because you lost a debate. That's not the reason. Um, so yes, just if someone brings up some well-known points, just be like, okay, I'm gonna have to research that. Just tell them I don't know. I'll research. It's the truth. And so that way we can continue to have well-known dialogue and continue to go back with that friend and continue to talk. Um, do not interrupt. This is simple but hard because I've known I I've even had this trouble. And a lot of that isn't because I'm trying to be rude or anything. I just like to talk. I can go on and on and on, and my friends are like, "Oh my gosh, be quiet." And I'll be like, "All right, I'm sorry." And so that's the thing. Um, at the same time, if you don't like a point, be kind about it. A story that I got is with someone who I was a friend with in high school. We were talking about the flood story. So, people who, I just mentioned I believe in older Earth than what, historic Christians might have believed. And I never really said what I believed in the theory of evolution, but I do believe that there was a flood that struck, mankind. Now, could it have been a regional flood or could it have been a worldwide flood? I don't know. That's not my field of science. But one thing I was talking about with my atheist friend was, and this was when I was like in high school, so it's been a long time. One point I brought up was, well, almost every civilization has talked about a well-known flood, and about 60% of it has been because it was brought to wipe out humanity, and there were only a few survivors. And of course, I did a whole flood video on a different thing, like, hey, maybe there were people dispersed across the world. If we just saw Noah's account of the flood, because it destroyed his whole world, and they were the only ones that they knew that were survivors. Well, could people have been elsewhere and survived too? Maybe. I was only pointing that out just because I think what the Bible doesn't mention can't really be scrutinized so much. Now, people may take a different interpretation of that, and that's fine. But the only reason I said that is because let's say you read a history book and it says Alexander the Great took over most of the known world. He didn't take over all of the known world, but he took over most of it. He didn't know about North America and South America. So you get what I mean? That is their known world. And so that was the point I brought up. But I was mentioning, hey, it's crazy because, these different civilizations all over the world, all the way from like North America to Europe to here. And my atheist friend didn't believe me. And he was like, no, you're lying. That isn't what happened. And we kept going back and forth. And it just kind of turned ugly. And it was one of those things I wish I was like, okay, look, I'm sorry. I know you're getting heated about this, and I'm getting heated about this too, and this is my ending point. If the discussion gets bad, take a break. I should have been like this once it got heated. I'm sorry. Just to save this relationship, let me back off a bit. And he ended up saying, oh, well, you were right about that. I don't believe in the flood. Or he said he didn't believe in the flood because he didn't think it was scientifically possible. But he was like, you were right about this point. And so it's just one of those things. I think a lot of our problems come from we don't dialogue properly. And so we need to learn to sometimes take a step back, look at our own faults, and be like, okay, how can we work together? And atheist, again, I want you to put in the comment section what you think that Christians might do wrong. Don't be ugly about it. And also put um, what you might think that your group does wrong. Christians, I want you to do the same thing. What do you think your group does wrong, and what do you wish atheists would do? And I think that if we really work together, we can form a plan how we talk to each other. We may not come to a consensus. We're obviously not every atheist is going to accept the word of God, and it's important that we just accept that. But at the same time, it's important that we just learn to live with each other and love each other, and that's a major accomplishment as well. Is getting each other to for there to be peace on earth. It'll never happen, but it's important to become one step closer, at least in my opinion. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I want to say I love you guys. I don't care whether you're atheist, Christian, Jewish, whatever religion you are. I love you. If you need someone to talk to, I'm going to put my Facebook link in the profile, and you can see sometimes I comment as myself. If you need to talk to anyone, you can send me a private message. I don't mind. But yeah, just I'm praying for each and every one of you. Even if you don't believe and you're like, oh, you should at least be happy that you're in my thoughts. And so I just want to say peace out, guys.